Let's bring in Gina Loudon, host of America's Trend with Dr. Gina and a Trump supporter. Dr. Loudon, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I know that you have said that you counsel survivors of sexual assault, and you have said that you are one yourself. So I'm curious about your reaction to these allegations against your candidate.
Yeah, well, I have definitely counseled survivors of sexual assault in the past, but I've also counseled people who are falsely accused. And I think that we have to be careful to base our judgments on facts and not on especially 11th hour campaign attacks. I'm not saying that I know conclusively, just as you don't know and no one knows, except for the people involved, that none of this happened. But so far, there's no evidence to these allegations. And I just happen to think, I just always try to put information together in the way that I learned as a researcher. And that is, look for the actual evidence, not what people say, but what is provable. And so far, many of these allegations have already been discredited very substantially. We'll see if the rest of them are. But even if they're not, here's what concerns me, Alex. That is that Hillary Clinton piled on the victims of her husband's sexual exploits. And I'm not talking about the infidelity here. I'm talking about the women he violently attacked. She also defended a child rapist against a 12-year-old little girl, said that the 12-year-old little girl probably brought it on herself. These are the kinds of things that I know to be very damaging to victims of sexual assault. So my blame, I guess, goes over in Hillary's corner.
Well, and I understand that. And I understand you support Mr. Trump. And I also understand that, I can't say that Hillary Clinton said verbatim those words exactly the way you say that. Implication, maybe is what you're repeating there. But Gina, I know that you argue these women's stories are false, or at least not at this point provable. But what would you say if one of them came to you with her story in a professional capacity? Or I'm curious, in your own case, did you encounter skepticism or disbelief about your story when you were assaulted? And also, was anyone convicted for that crime?
No, and really, frankly, the only person I told was my husband and closer friends. But I think each woman handles these things very differently. But I do think also, if you're going to be public, why not public 30 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago? But in the last 30 days of a campaign, I think we have to be we just have to look at the facts really carefully before we're going to judge someone based on an allegation in the 11th hour of a campaign.
Timing is interesting, certainly, but Gina, you well know that trying to prove rape in a court of law is very, very difficult. It is an uphill battle because it's a he said, she said. That's what it's going to be. So do you think it could be that these people are believing, wait a minute, somebody was bold enough to come forward, and then, the floodgates open? People will say there's strength in numbers.
But let's be really careful here. I don't even think anyone has accused Donald Trump of rape. Now, Mr. Clinton, on the other hand, has been massively accused. And I find it interesting that so many who completely excused the things that Mr. Clinton did now seem to be so concerned with total sexual propriety in all things concerning the White House. Again, what we have are facts that line up on the side that say that Hillary Clinton has shamed women who have been sexually assaulted, including a 12-year-old girl blaming the victim. Well, this isn't someone who was with her husband. This is a 12-year-old little girl who was forever affected by what Mrs. Clinton did, and in fact says that what Mrs. Clinton did to her was far more damaging than what the rapist did to her. So I think, again, we just have to be very careful to look at the evidence that we have, who has harmed women the most. And I think it's very easy to come down on the side of Hillary Clinton having done that.
According to the National Sexual Violence Research Center, which says that the number of false allegations of sexual assault, it's not more than 10% or so. Many experts say, look, it's even less than that. As someone who counsels survivors of sexual assault, you must be familiar with these numbers. So with 9 accusations made against Trump, statistically even, isn't it likely that at least some of them are true?
I can't comment on that because I really don't think that, the number of, frankly, to be honest with you, Alex, I've been surprised that more women didn't make accusations about this earlier. As soon as there's a video, think about it. Every event you go to, every building corner, every iPhone in the room, and there's no evidence that any of these things were caught on tape, that doesn't make any sense to me. So it is the 11th hour of a very, very nasty campaign. You have Donald Trump, who
why
was
would any
literally
of these things be caught on tape?
Well, I mean, if it happened at Mar-a-Lago, I would think if it would have definitely been caught on tape. I know that there are videotapes everywhere. I think it depends. But you know, even in that particular incident. Even in that particular incident, I believe it's that woman who the dates completely don't line up with the event that she said happened, and I believe some of her own family members have said it didn't happen. But here's the thing: I think when you just line the two candidates up side by side and you decide where you feel the biggest threat as a woman. I feel a big threat by a woman who's taken hundreds of millions of dollars from foreign governments who stone women to death and throw gay people off of buildings. That
Gina,
kind of thing
I understand what you're saying. Look, Gina, but I'm asking you to defend your candidate and not deflect and turn the conversation to discussing Hillary Clinton. Just with your candidate, can you defend him against these allegations unequivocally? And you know, the tape that we saw, the Access Hollywood tape, how did you feel about that?
I didn't like that. I don't think he liked that. I don't think anybody liked that. But again, it isn't about, I think you have to line up words and actions, because I think actions speak a whole lot louder than words. And when Hillary Clinton looks right at Goldman Sachs on Wall Street and says,
Gina,
don't believe the things I say to the voters.
That tape, did that tape not disturb you? You said you didn't like it. I'm curious if you didn't like it because what it shows is a man who talks about his celebrity, who talks about his star power, and then indicates a level of abuse with it. Doesn't that worry you if he jumps from that to the Oval Office? I mean, his capacity to abuse the power in this way?
Well, I think it's important to note that Mr. Trump did apologize for that. That doesn't make it okay. I agree with you on that. I don't think it makes it okay in his mind or any of his supporters' minds at all. But again, you look at evidence, you know, where real people die. And when I look at what Hillary Clinton has done, going back to what happened in Libya, going back to, you know, these governments that she's cutting deals with, making money from, that kill women. We're talking about dead women. We're talking about raped women. With Mr. Trump, we're not talking about any of that. And he apologized for it. And that doesn't make it okay what he said, but I'm looking at his actions. And I'm looking at Hillary Clinton's actions. And I can't support her knowing what she's done to women.
All right, Gina Loudon, thank you very much for weighing in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Donald Trump's new claims of a